It's not necessary to go to Italy for an authentic pasta sauce. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make 4 mouth-watering sauces from scratch in your own kitchen. A traditional slow-cooked Bolognese, a quick and easy Puttanesca, a rich Carbonara, and a light but unforgettable sauce made with Bottarga, a specialty of southern Italy. A Bolognese sauce is referred to as a ragu, R-A-G-U, or a hearty meat sauce. It's a staple of Italian cooking, and it offers a rich, more complex alternative to the more common tomato sauce. Think of it as a stew that has been cooked to a thicker consistency, since the process for making the sauce is largely the same. And you start with 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of butter. And to the butter and the olive oil, add 3 ounces of cubed pancetta, cut into about 1/4 inch pieces. And as the fat melts, you'll start to add your vegetables. Add 2/3 of a cup of yellow onion, very, very finely minced. And mince all the vegetables to the same size. Notice how fine it is. This will cook down, cook away almost, but add tremendous flavor to the sauce. To this, now add 2/3 of a cup of minced carrot. That's about 2 carrots, finely minced. And you see how colorful it is when it gets into the mix? Cook that just for a minute or so, and then you're going to add the 3rd element of the typical sofrito, which is celery. 2/3 of a cup of minced celery, which is about 1 large rib. And this takes about 10 minutes to be fully cooked before you add the meats into the sauce. The original Italian ragu didn't contain tomato, which arrived from America later on. Tomatoes were not indigenous to Italy, but from the New World. And so now I'm going to add the pork. This is 1 pound of ground pork, and spread it out in the pan and let the fat from the pork render into the sofrito. So now I'm going to add the beef, 1 pound of finely chopped beef. You can use bottom round, you can use chuck, you could use sirloin. A little bit of fat content is good. And just keep stirring to get the meat rendering its fatty content, and also to start browning in the sofrito. So you can see the meat is nicely browned, and there is some excess fat here in the bottom of my pan, so I'm going to remove that excess fat with a spoon. If you push all the meat to one side, you can easily scoop out the excess fat. So that's quite a bit of fat. You don't want that in your sauce. No reason to have it. Leave a tablespoon or 2. Okay, so that is done, and now add tomato paste. 3 tablespoons plus a teaspoon of tomato paste. That'll add a nice color to your sauce. And use a good quality tomato paste. Look how great, the color is really changing. We're now going to add some white wine, milk, and stock. First goes 1 cup of white wine. The wine will loosen any bits here and there in the bottom of the pot. And now a cup of milk, whole milk. And milk's added to enhance both the flavor and the creaminess of the sauce. And cook this just for a couple minutes until the liquid is reduced by approximately half. Add your aromatics, about 5 sprigs of thyme, and 1 or 2 fresh bay leaves to the sauce. And now you add 1 28-ounce can of whole peeled tomatoes that have been broken up. You can squish them with your hands. You can run them through a food processor if you like. And last but not least, 6 cups of good quality chicken stock. This is going to take about 3.5 hours to cook to the right consistency so that you can top your pasta. And you have to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and some freshly ground black pepper, approximately 1/4 teaspoon. Stir. So now, one last step, bring this to a boil, reduce to a very low simmer, and cook partially covered for 3 to 3.5 hours. Our sauce is pretty much done. You can see how it has reduced tremendously in the pot. One last little thing to do is add 1/4 cup of milk. Oh, it looks so very good. Look at that creamy, beautiful sauce. And now, time to toss the pasta with the sauce. What a delicious sight. And you can toss it right in the bowl. It's coating the pasta nicely. And you can always have an additional amount of sauce in a bowl on the table for people who like more sauce. And enjoy. And I'm going to add just a little bit more sauce to the top of the pasta. That really looks great. And of course, some cheese. Melts right into the hot sauce. And there you have spaghetti bolognese, one of America's favorite ways to serve and eat pasta. Try it. Spaghetti carbonara, alla carbonara, is another very popular way to serve the most popular of all pastas, spaghetti. And I'm about to cook our pound of spaghetti, 1 tablespoon of salt for 1 pound of pasta. And bring the water to a raging boil. Add your pasta. This spaghetti takes about 10 minutes. We're going to start first with the bacon. 6 ounces of bacon cut into small cubes, like 1/4-inch cubes. And you can buy yourself a piece of slab bacon like this and cut it into the cubes yourself. And we want to render the fat, get this cooking before we proceed with the rest of the sauce. And traditionally, spaghetti alla carbonara was made with salted and cured pig's jowl, the jowls of the pig, called guanciale, which tastes a bit stronger and saltier than the more commonly used pancetta. But in America, people really like the taste of bacon. I do. And so I'm using an ordinary slab bacon, which has a little bit of a smoky flavor. So cook that until it is nicely browned and the fat has been rendered, around 8 to 10 minutes. And drain the bacon on a piece of paper toweling and immediately add to the hot pan 3 cloves of garlic that has been really finely minced. This is a creamy sauce. You don't want to really see the garlic, but you want to taste it. There's enough fat in the pan from the bacon that I don't feel any need to add any additional olive oil. But if it's dry, you should add a little bit of olive oil. And while the garlic is getting cooked, mix together 4 egg yolks, large egg yolks, with 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Some people will argue that you should be using pecorino cheese, but again, that's up to you. So here's our sauce, beautiful. So I've turned off the heat on the garlic because you can see it's getting a slight golden tint. You don't want it any darker than that. So the next thing we add is the pasta to here and reserve, a cup or so of the cooking liquid, cooking water. That's for the sauce in case you need it. And drain your pasta. I drain it in a sink with cold water running right into a colander. Beautiful. And now we're ready to proceed and finish the pasta dish. Be ready to eat, have your guests at the table. The pasta goes right in with the garlic. Stir this around. Coat the pasta with the garlic first. Add your egg mixture, egg yolks, heavy cream, and Parmesan cheese. And the warmth of the pan and the warmth of the pasta will temper the eggs nicely. You don't want it to curdle. You want the pasta to be nicely coated with that mixture. Doesn't that look good? And now add your bacon back into the spaghetti. Isn't that pretty? And I think I'll just add a little tiny bit, like a tablespoon, of the cooking water. Be careful of the hot pan. Put this on a heated platter. Oh, look at the color of this pasta. Isn't that beautiful? It's so beautiful. Garnish with freshly grated lemon zest. It smells so, so very good. Freshly chopped parsley. And some cheese. I think you'll love spaghetti alla carbonara. Our next sauce is a Puttanesca. It originated in Naples, Italy, and is made with 6 pantry staples. So there's really no excuse if you have a good pantry, a well-stocked pantry, that you can't make this kind of pasta at home. Canned tomatoes, capers, anchovies, garlic, red pepper flakes, and olives. And your sauce can be made in the time it takes your pasta water to come to a boil. So let me teach you how to make Puttanesca. Start off with a pot of water. And remember, a tablespoon of salt per pound of pasta. We're using ½ pound, so about 1½ teaspoons of salt. And bring that to a raging boil and add your pasta. I'm going to use penne because when it comes to saucing pasta, the general rule is to use light sauces for delicate pastas like capellini or spaghettini, and chunky heavy sauces for sturdier pastas like penne or rigatoni. Pasta's flavor is also an important consideration when choosing a sauce. The delicate flavor of fresh pasta is most successfully paired with light, creamy, or butter-based sauces. And dried pastas, which I really prefer most of the time, are usually combined with heartier sauces. The Puttanesca is one of those hearty sauces. Start with 1½ teaspoons of olive oil and 2 cloves of garlic, very finely minced, and 1/4 teaspoon of red hot pepper flakes, or to taste, and 3 anchovies. These are salted anchovies packed in olive oil, and they are rinsed to get some of the salt off, and just mash those in the pan. I have an old boyfriend who had mastered pasta puttanesca. That's his only dish in his repertoire, and I think I've told this story before. He loves it every time I tell it. If you get invited to his house for dinner, that's all you ever get. He's never gone beyond. Very amusing. So we don't want to cook the garlic. We just want to saute it lightly. So that has started the sauce. And then tomatoes. These are plum tomatoes. Use a pair of kitchen shears or your hands. You can pull these apart with your hands too, but I find it's very easy and neat to use your scissors. There, that's good and chunky, but yet cut up enough so that it will work as a sauce. And now add this to your pan. We have Kalamata olives. These are pitted, and there's 1/4 cup of them. And Kalamata olives are the elongated, purpley olives from Kalamata, Greece. And they are very, very flavorful. You have to take the pits out, and the pits are easy to get out of the Kalamatas. Olive goes right into the sauce, and capers. These are the little caper berries that grow on a caper bush, and they are very bitter on the bush. But once dried in the sun and packed in brine, vinegar, or dry salt, the bitterness dissipates and the tender green little pellet shapes develop a really nice, tangy, salty flavor. So the sauce is coming together. It's looking really good. A little pinch of black pepper, a little pinch of salt. So you see we've finished the sauce, and now with your spider, just put the hot cooked pasta right into your sauce. It's so easy. Dinner on the table in just the time it takes to cook the pasta. I suggest serving this with a sauteed broccoli rabe or a spinach. Coat the pasta with the sauce. And it is healthy, really, really delicious. If you don't know the backstory, Puttanesca translates as in the style of the whore, which is Puttanesca. And the story goes that the whores would prepare this pasta because it didn't take them away from their real work. And also the smell is so good it attracted people into their lair. There you have it, pasta Puttanesca. A little chiffonaded basil would be pretty. A little basil leaf would be also gorgeous. A perfect dinner for two. Now this pasta dish is one of my all-time favorites. I learned about Bottarga, which is the main flavor ingredient of this pasta, when I was visiting the beautiful island of Sardinia. I had never been there before, and I had never tasted Bottarga, which is in the Mediterranean, known as the Mediterranean caviar. And it's the roe of either the gray mullet or the tuna fish, which is found in the Mediterranean. It's salted, pressed, and air-dried, and it adds a very unique flavor to the pasta. So I am browning the garlic in olive oil, and we have some white bread in our food processor, and I'm just pulsing the bread until it forms a rough breadcrumb. And I'm going to toast this, about a cup of it, in with the garlic. Just about that much. And now gently brown the breadcrumbs. That takes about 5 minutes. The pasta, the bucatini, which is a long tubular pasta with a hole down the middle, cooks for about 6 minutes in the boiling water, and then the rest of the time in the sauce itself, which I'm going to make right now. So the breadcrumbs are a golden brown, and I'm removing those to a tray. They're crispy. They'll even get a little crispier drying out of the oil. And now we're going to make the rest of the sauce right here in the high-sided skillet. And we have to heat now 1/4 cup of olive oil and 4 cloves of garlic crushed. Just leave the pieces nice and big because you can pick those out later on. So I'll just crush these like that. And they can go right into the... Oh, the pasta has cooked now for 6 minutes. I'm going to drain that into a colander. Good facial, steamed facial. And just let that sit right here. Okay, so the garlic's in. We're going to add 1/4 cup of capers. Stand back because the capers, even though they've been drained of their liquid, do tend to pop open, and they turn into little flowers when they do pop open. It's a pretty sight. And 1/4 cup of golden raisins, slightly chopped. So already it's an unusual combination of ingredients. This would be something that you would find in Sardinia or even in the islands off the coast of Sicily. And we have preserved lemons. These you can buy or you can make, but we want just the peel cut into small dice. What these are really lemons that have been sitting in kosher salt for about 3 weeks. It is a North African, Moroccan kind of condiment and extremely flavorful. So add your preserved lemon and 4 cups of chicken stock. Bring that to a simmer. Already a different sauce, wouldn't you say? You need a tablespoon of lemon juice. That's basically about a half of a lemon. And 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. 1 stick of butter is 8 tablespoons, and 6 is 3/4 of a stick of butter. Makes cooking very much easier when you know the proportions. So let this cook together until the butter melts. And another exotic ingredient is this reddish Aleppo pepper. This comes from Turkey or from Syria. Aleppo is actually a city in Syria. 1 teaspoon. Has a very nice taste for this particular pasta. Now when this comes to a simmer, add your pasta. And the pasta cooks yet another, 3 or 4 minutes. And while this is simmering, and don't forget to stir, you can prepare the rest of the ingredients. Al dente, by the way, is the most desired doneness. The pasta is cooked until it can be bitten easily, but still offers that little sense of texture. That's the term, al dente, to the tooth. And we have our Bottarga. This is tuna Bottarga, and you buy it by the ounce. It is the most unusual flavor. Salty, pungent, really, really amazing. It's a little hard to find. You can probably get it online, but that's the Bottarga. And I want to also make some strips of Parmesan cheese. All of this is going to go onto our pasta. If you use a vegetable peeler like this, you can make yourself quite a little pile of these pretty curls. Let's check on our pasta. Add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. This does help thicken up the liquid. And then add your 1/4 cup of toasted pine nuts and your lovely chopped parsley. Flat leaf parsley is good. And now I'm going to add most of the Bottarga. I've reserved some for the top. So utterly beautiful. So the way I like to serve it is in a shallow dish like this. Take a big swirl of it. Try to get all of the ingredients. A sprinkling of the breadcrumbs. And I don't know if you've ever had a pasta that you just can't stop eating. This is one of them. And some shavings of the Parmesan cheese on top. And a little bit more of the Bottarga. And here you have a very unusual, flavorful, unique, delicious pasta, one that you will remember forever. Bucatini with Bottarga. Well, I certainly hope you've enjoyed learning about these 4 classic pasta sauces. Experiment with different combinations of pastas and ingredients, and treat yourself and your family. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Martha's Cooking School, and I will see you next lesson.